Northern Europe, where most of the production comes from, the situation is about 70–60% of seed from conventional seeds, untreated seed. Yeah. This is the link where you can find more information about all the strategic crop that we have, for which we have estimated the 3 components of the potential demand. And well, this report that you can have a look at, the organic print, is the first estimate of the current supply and demand. And then we are continuing to update this report. But it's very important because the aim of this report is to increase the transparency and help the future market development of the organic seed sector. And this is especially important in this phase of, in this moment, because as you know, the new organic regulation that will come next year has announced the phasing out of derogation by 2036. And also because of this political agenda, the Farm to Fork strategy has the ambitious goal to have 25% of organic share by 2030. So it is important to have good data of good quality and to know the market and the transparency. Considering this scenario, then according to our current data, we can see, for example, that for wheat, the forecast for wheat seed demand in 2030 rise to about 500 tons, which is 5 times more than the current organic production. So we should increase of 5 times more from here to 2030, according to our estimate. And the situation is even worse if we consider carrots, because the forecast for carrots then is by 2030 to have 45,000 million of seed, which is 50 times more than the current market. So as I say, there are different among EU member states, but also different among crops. So somehow our work, the work that we have done until now, and we are continuing to update our estimate, is to shed light on this market. So that's briefly, in a nutshell, what we have done in task 1 of LIVESEED project. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Francesco. Just a quick information: we are recording this session, so in case you don't want to appear, just keep your video off. And yeah, if you don't want to speak, you can also just write in the chat. So just a little info here. Yeah, so please, Maaike, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for the introduction, Eva. My name is Maaike Raijmaakers. I work with Bionext. We are also one of the partners of the LIVESEED project, mainly active in work package 1 on policy and regulation. And in the next 5 minutes, I will present to you the main results from the European Seed Supplier Survey that was conducted within LIVESEED. And for this, I want to thank Freya Schäfer from FiBL Germany, because he did most of the work on this, and Stefano Orsini, who will also be the next speaker and help me with preparing this presentation. The survey was completed by 210 seed suppliers and breeders all over Europe, although the majority of the respondents came from Central European countries. And the results suggest that organic seed production and sales increased in the last 3 years, mainly in Central Europe. Another result that came out of this survey is that seed companies mainly list organic seed offers in the national database. even if they are active in organic seed trade in more countries. And this has to do with administrative and language barriers. It's not always easy to enter foreign seed databases. And we hope that the EU router database that was launched earlier this year will solve this problem. With this database, seed suppliers can use one portal to offer their seeds in all European countries. The third result of this survey is that we really need to phase out derogations to avoid a supply and demand paradox. And with this, we mean that on the one hand, you see now that some seed suppliers wonder if the current demand on organic seed justifies scaling up their seed production, while at the same time, the farmers find the current offer of organic seed insufficient to meet their demands and therefore require derogations. There were also some questions in the survey relating to organic seed production, and the responses to that suggest that organic seed production is especially more challenging in terms of yield losses, volatility, and in terms of pest of diseases. So we need to work on that. And they also mentioned that it's quite difficult to find enough knowledgeable farmers that can become good seed producers and to find suitable locations for organic seed production. And this will be, of course, an increasing problem if we scale up seed production. Then there is a need for stricter rules for derogations, for more organically allowed seed treatments, for research on how to reduce the cost of organic seed production, because according to the many seed producers, the gap between conventional seed production and organic seed production is too high in terms of cost. And there's a need for information on the demand for organic seed in and outside the EU. Then there were some questions relating to organic breeding, and they suggest that most respondents are convinced that organic breeding for local adaptation, for organic farming and for taste are key to improve performance of organic production. But at the same time, they doubt that there is sufficient return of investment to justify separate breeding programs. And the next speaker will go more into detail about this dilemma. And it was also found that only 10% of the respondents are exclusively involved in organic breeding, meaning that the majority of the respondents are also producing and breeding conventional seeds and varieties. Some conclusions and recommendations from this survey that we draw as partners of the LIVESEED project. We think that to stimulate availability of organic seed in Eastern European countries and Baltic states, we really need to stimulate local organic seed trade via wholesalers, because this is not a common practice yet in those countries, and it could really help to stimulate the availability of organic seed there. And secondly, there is a need for seed cleaning facilities, because often farmers are now the main producers of organic seed, and without those seed cleaning facilities, those farmers cannot meet the requirements for certification. So what you see now is that there is a lack of certified organic seed on the market. Then reduction of the cost of organic seed production seems especially important to stimulate larger seed companies to invest in organic seed. If we look at the current situation, then the companies that are 100% organic are mainly smaller companies, and also the smaller conventional companies tend to start an organic branch. So if we really want to involve all seed companies, then we need to work on those costs. And then to mitigate the supply and demand paradox, I mentioned it before, we need to phase out the derogations. But in addition, it's really important that the communication between the stakeholders is stimulated. And we think that Seed Experts Group can play an important role in this. What we found in our visits we did for the LIVESEED project is that in countries where the stakeholders do not meet, there's very little progress in the situation. That's it for now. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Maaike, for these interesting insights into the seed supplier survey results. I'd now like to ask Stefano to explain us a little more about financing strategies for organic breeding.
Yeah, sure. Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Eva, for the introduction. Can you see the presentation?
Not yet.
Sorry.
Now we see it, not in presentation mode yet, though.
Okay, yes. Now I think it should be fine.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. So yes, as Eva mentioned, I'm going to talk about organic breeding and in particular the existing financing models. As we know, the new regulation has not only announced the phasing out of derogations for the use of non-organic seed, but also tries to promote organic breeding. And I think this is important because at present conventional breeders concentrate on a few major crops with a focus especially on high input conventional agriculture. A distinction that I want to make is between organic breeding and breeding for organic. In the first case, all the crosses and selection process happens under organic conditions, while in breeding for organic, only the final selection stages are under organic conditions. So this second one is probably more product-oriented than process-oriented. And yes, in the next slide, I will briefly present the main financing models for organic breeding. At present, funding is quite limited to few Central European countries, which explains the difficulties for organic varieties to gain significance in the market. And currently, the prevalent model is represented by the seed companies doing conventional breeding, who also dedicate a part of their business to breeding for organic. In which case, as I said previously, most part of the breeding process actually happens in conventional conditions anyway. And this model still focuses on a few major crops and cultivars because, of course, from an economic point of view, it is more efficient to have just a few varieties on the market that can reach a large sales market. Organic breeding is often funded by public funding through research, which probably is the main stream of source of funding, which however suffers from a lack of long-term funding and normally doesn't undertake practical breeding work. And another important stream of funding is represented by donations, which, however, at the moment take place especially in countries of Central Europe, and it seems quite difficult to transfer to other countries also because the income to the breeder is often unstable. An interesting model is represented by the supply chain partnership, where market players downstream the supply chain support the breeding process by indicating the breeding goals so that the resulting cultivar is not only suitable to the organic farming conditions, but also to the processing needs and the market requirements. Here in the figure, I tried to represent, well, this case study was analyzed especially by Francesco Solfanelli. And this is, yes, an example of an organic durum wheat variety developed in Italy, where the funding is to a significant extent provided by the retailer who decided to invest in this project, but also by public funding through the rural development programs. While a research institute carries out the pre-breeding and practical breeding is carried out by a foundation. And the idea for the future of this initiative is to develop a private label for this variety, so that also the consumers will contribute to the breeding by paying a premium price. And so basically this is an example of where different sources of funding basically support the project, including a couple of measures from the rural development programs, one supporting the supply chain partnership and one the breeding program carried out by the research institute. And probably in the future it would be more efficient that these different measures are grouped into a unique measure specifically targeted to organic breeding. And the last slide represent pool funding concept developed by Eva Winter and Monica Messmer, where basically a cross-sector pool funding strategy is proposed for joining forces among value chain partners to boost organic breeding. And basically this approach would entail that the pool funding, the food industry contribute to organic breeding through a flat rate of 0.2% at the point of sale of the organic sales revenue. So as an example, currently in Germany around 51,000 tons of organic wash storage carrots are produced every year, and the average wholesale price between is about 1.58 euro, and if 0.2% of this basically is dedicated to organic breeding, basically this would result in 161,000 euros that could go into organic breeding, which is a good contribution. However, other funding sources would still probably necessary to obtain a comparable breeding budget to successful breeding companies. And anyway, this is something that the next speaker, Christian, will describe more in depth. And yes, basically we'll identify the best measures and actions to take both for organic seed and breeding. And this was my last slide. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Stefano, for these insights on organic breeding financing strategies. Now I'd like to give the floor to Christian to give us some insights into 3 case studies on how to increase organic seed use.
Excellent. Okay, I'm just going to share my screen also. Good morning, everyone. My name is Christian Grovermann. I'm an agricultural economist at FiBL. And what I'm presenting here today is actually mainly the work of Eva, but she has the task of moderating the session. So, so I'm taking this over, and we'll give you a little bit of an insight into our work, where we try to really evaluate different interventions that aim at boosting organic seed use, and doing this also based on specific models. Now, in that, we try to consider organic breeding and organic seed as such, and did an overall analysis of specific value chains. You see them represented down here, the carrot value chain for organic seed, durum wheat in Italy, carrots in Germany, and then ryegrass in the UK. So these were our three case studies for this. Then after sort of this in-depth analysis of the value chain, we then also try to develop a simulation model that really represents this value chain, the behavior of different actors in the chain. And then based on that model, we could evaluate certain policy options and innovations or R&D interventions, and really try to quantify what their impact would be at different levels of the value chain. Now here, this is just a summary of some of the results, and there are three main components. Let me start on the top right with the financing strategies for organic breeding, and this was mainly an outcome of the initial value chain analysis. So here, this builds on what Stefano had already mentioned. These sort of value chain partnerships turned out to be a promising solution for carrots. When it comes to durum wheat, their cooperatives and their sort of collective action seemed to be a promising solution. And then with ryegrass, it was more in the sense of public-private partnerships. So also some more government support for private breeding initiatives would be the way forward according to our analysis. Now, the other two things that you see here, the research and development and the seed policies, these were things that we really then tested in models in simulation models of the value chain. And here for R&D, with carrots, pest management, so lygus bug control turned out to be one of the main leverage points. For durum wheat, it was farm-safe seed. That would be an important driver. And then an innovation that's essential for ryegrass, in our ryegrass case study, is the breeding for nitrogen efficiency to actually boost yields. And this was at seed production level, the same with pest management for carrots. There, the lygus bug control is very essential at the seed production level so that it doesn't further enter kind of the value chain. Now, in terms of policies, we looked at different strategies here to increase the use of organic seed. And all of these were combined with a scenario where we tried, okay, what really happens if derogations are phased out? For carrots, this resulted in a clear shortage of organic seed. If we're thinking about sort of current production levels or some increase in seed production, organic seed production, but not massive increases, which then results also in an income loss for farmers. And that can be somewhat mitigated through this higher germination rate and the pest management innovations. For durum wheat, the phasing out seemed to work well through this option of farm-safe seed. And for ryegrass, again, because the organic seed is more expensive, income losses would be expected, and having at least initially some kind of subsidy to counteract these losses would be an option here. Now I want to go a little bit more into depth for our carrot case, and here now very quickly to just illustrate, we modeled across 8 years, and you will see with the dotted line, this is what happens to the conventional seed in case of derogations, like a gradual phasing out of the derogation. It just continually goes down. But you can see also, if we just have, and these are the darker lines at the bottom, if we just assume that organic seed production will slowly increase, and we have the derogation in place, and then the higher germination rate, the blue line, we don't reach these original levels that we see in year 1 for the dotted line. And this would only be the case with this green line, when really we could allow for a very substantial, like a triple increase every year in the production of organic seed. Only then these levels, they could even be exceeded according to our calculation, or could kind of be reached around year 6. My last slide now, and I'll keep it very short. I just want to illustrate also that the phasing out of derogations really has consequences for farmers. And here in our model, we had 100 representative carrot farms that more or less covered the characteristics of carrot farms that we see in reality. And you can see from these box plots that a derogation would really shift the distribution of the gross margin to the left, more than a 10% reduction overall. And then if the higher germination rate is introduced, that mitigates this somewhat. And then with sufficient seed, and in the last scenario, even we also try to integrate a subsidy, then these losses at the farm level can really be mitigated, and there won't be any kind of income effects for farms that would be expected. So overall, this kind of a substantial yearly increase in seed production, along with this innovation on higher germination, would be quite substantial according to our model results. And with that, I would like to conclude. Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to your questions.
Thanks a lot, Christian, for these insights. Yeah, maybe all the speakers can turn on their video now for the Q&A section. We already have some questions in the chat. I think the first one is from Cesar Gonzalez. If you'd like to ask your question directly, otherwise I can also read it out as you wish.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I was a bit surprised about the statement on organic breeding for organic and organic breeding, because organic heterogeneous material, even if it's bred under conventional conditions and multiply under organic conditions, will still be considered as organic breeding. So why making this distinction for the others and not for organic heterogeneous material? Thank you.
Who would like to reply to this?
Yeah, maybe I can try. Yeah, basically, in principle, I would agree that what Stefano Balestri suggests, that organic heterogeneous material after crossing are let stabilize under organic conditions. So yes, basically not since the very beginning of the process. And so in this perspective, I would consider it more as a form of breeding for organic. in organic breeding, strictly speaking, is basically the very first stages of selection and crosses and selections are under organic conditions. But yeah, I don't know if the others want to add something else.
I think there are some different definitions, right? On what exactly organic breeding is. And for us in the project, it was always very clear that organic breeding needs to be under organic conditions from the first cross, right? But it's not a universal definition. Would anyone like to add anything to this? Otherwise, we'd go to the next question. This is, will it be possible, realistic, to have 100% organic seed in the future, as producing varieties is a continuous process and takes time? And will it be possible to cover all crops and varieties for organic seed in the future without losing biodiversity? So a bit of controversial question. I don't know, Maaike, do you maybe want to say something to this?
Yes. Well, we've had this question before, and I think although it's a very relevant question, if you look at the figures that Francesco presented, we are far from 100%, and there's still a lot to gain. So I think we should focus now on how we can increase the production of organic seed and organic varieties that are suitable for organic production. And that's the question, whether we can really reach 100% becomes more relevant in the future. It's not possible to answer. What I do know is that what you see from the seed companies, once they start organic seed production, after a while, they realize that some of the varieties are better suited for organic than others. So they start some selection. So it's inevitable that the varieties used by the organic farmers will also change. They will not be the same as they use now. But that's not in itself a problem. Hopefully, it will improve the organic production. So, and of course, we want to maintain biodiversity, but we also have to be realistic. If I look at my country, in some crops, it's already a few varieties that all the farmers use now. So if we want more biodiversity, we need also to focus on diversification of the farming process itself. It's not only up to the seeds that are used. I think there's a lot to win with mixed farming and that kind of things that is now upcoming. So I cannot answer this question, but I think we should focus now on the improvements that can still be made.
Thank you, Maaike. Would someone like to add something to this? I think it was quite a comprehensive answer. Then Isabelle Clément Nissou, sorry if I pronounce the names not correctly. Would you like to ask your question out loud, or should I just read it out? This is about what Christian presented on the modeling results. Could you explain the higher germination rate and the sufficient seed scenario? And maybe I can just chip in here, if that's all right with you. Yeah, so the higher germination rate scenario was really about tackling these technical difficulties for organic carrot production, organic carrot seed production, and to get the quality, so the germination rate at the same or approximately the same level as for conventional carrot seed, and then the sufficient seed scenario is because it's kind of difficult to really estimate how seed producers will react. We have different scenarios on their behavior in the model. And for the status quo and the high germination rate scenario, we assumed a rather conservative behavior of seed suppliers where really they look at what have I sold in the recent years, and how to increase the amount that is produced in the next year rather conservatively, whereas under the sufficient seed scenario we really tried to match demand and supply to see how much would actually be needed. And yeah, this is basically the difference. I hope it's clearer now, otherwise you can also ask again. And you can also hold up your hand if you like to ask a question directly. Here there's another question from Stephen Jacobs. Would you like to ask it, or should I read it out? Here we are.
I'm happy to ask it. It's I know the answer. I'm afraid it's not a good one. Put it up right exactly. Have you seen examples where organic cereal seeds, so grains particularly, where the breeding has been successfully expanded? And I ask because cereals provide a more complex scenario, perhaps, to the example of carrots. So if you want a 100% organic loaf of bread, are you going to be able to source all of the seed domestically? Will the longer chain that's involved by bringing in imports interrupt the desire for development? We've seen recently animal feed, although we've supposedly all learnt through the COVID experience that shorter supply chains are more resilient, companies seem to be going back to buying in from abroad because it's cheaper. So I'm asking, have you seen examples where that's been overcome?
I don't know, maybe the Viva example is an interesting one. Or Stefano, go ahead if you'd like to.
No, I don't know any example of for cereals personally. I don't know if in Italy or there is any.
No, but Eva, I think the Viva example might be a case for this. I don't know, Eva, you want to explain this?
You can go ahead. You can go ahead.
There's in Switzerland, there is an organic wheat variety that has been bred by Peter Kunz breeding, and so this has been quite successful in the sense that I think around, I'm not completely sure, but I think around almost 60% of organic farmers have organic wheat farmers have adopted this at some point in time. And so it just turned out, we also did a study on it, and it just turned out that it was better or equally good as previously dominant wheat varieties. So it really was this benefit, or this, that it didn't have any disadvantages that convinced farmers to adopt it in the end. So if you look this up, it's called Viva, so W-I-W-A, Viva wheat. It's a winter wheat.
Okay, I think this is the last question in the chat. If there are no other burning questions, I also don't see any raised hands. Thank you very much for all the questions and the answers. And then I'd now like to introduce you to our Klaxoon board, where you can put up some post-its. I just put the link in the chat and the code word. So if you could just click on this link and also copy out the code word, and I'm just going to quickly walk you through it. Just going to share my screen again. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we've come up with 4 questions that we'd like to ask you. Firstly, in which way do you think can the presented results of today help you to increase organic breeding activities in your role, where you can also post infos on organic heterogeneous material? Then the second question would be, in which way can the presented result help you to increase organic seed production in your role as policymaker, as seed producer, as other stakeholder? There's the possibility to indicate this in the post-it. And then thirdly, which next steps do you foresee to increase organic seed production and or organic breeding activities, depending on where your focus lies in your role? And then fourthly, which key obstacles do you still foresee in your role to facilitate this process, and how can research further facilitate to overcome these obstacles? So I'd be very curious to read from you what you think about these questions, and maybe also to help you start the thinking process, what can be done to really increase organic seed and organic breeding activities. Yeah, just posted this in the link already. So if you could go on board, and there you will probably be asked for a login info, but you can just close this window. And then you will only be asked to insert a nickname that you can choose yourself, and then the password. And then you might have to click continue or participate or something once or twice, and then you should see the board. Stefano, does it work for you? Great. Okay, then I go on. To create a post-it in the bottom, in the middle of the page, there's this plus sign where you can just click on, and then you can create a post-it. That looks like this, where you can write your idea and your name and your profession. And you can choose these colors, so it would be easier for us if you just put it into the color of the question. And then with this little flyer here, you can submit your idea, and then you can drag and drop it to the question that you are trying to answer with it. So that'd be perfect. And I'd also like to ask you to look around a bit while you're writing, because we are giving you some time for this, so that you can upvote. So give hearts to ideas that are already on the board and that you like. And you can do that with clicking on the post-it of the idea that you like, and you can just give it a heart here. Oh, sorry, no. Yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward. So yeah, just maybe take 3 to 5 minutes per question, and please also take the time, as I just said, to give out maybe 3 hearts in total for the post-its of 1 question. And then, yeah, thanks a lot for sharing these thoughts with us in this way. And afterwards, we can look at some of the answers that got quite a few likes together and discuss them. And we will also further use your inputs for our final deliverables in the projects and the policy briefs, and also for further research projects. So yeah, please just go ahead. I'll be keeping the time a little bit, reminding you of how far we've proceeded, and then we can come back together. What's the time now? in around 20 minutes, so about 20 past 11. We can all look at it together. Here we are. Can you see my screen with the klaxon board?
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, thanks a lot for contributing to this. I'm just now going to go through the 4 questions and see what ideas have been particularly popular, and then we can read it out, and the person who wrote it, if they like, they can add something orally, or we can also discuss it among the speakers to maybe see if we can find some examples. I see here this one posted for the first question, in which the presented results can help you increase organic breeding activities. There's this idea that got 4 hearts for policymakers, that supply chain partnerships to I guess, supply chain partnerships should be fostered, so that breeding goals are market oriented. And I think this is a very important point. And yeah, I wonder, maybe Stefano, would you like to say something about this supply chain partnership that you've presented? Maybe go a little bit more into detail, or just make aware that this exists in Italy?
Yes, this is very true, and the example that I showed before on the organic durum wheat variety developed in Italy is a perfect example of this partnership, where the breeding goals are indeed agreed, well agreed, identified together from the breeders, farmers, and processors. And yes, also I guess this is an action that should be somehow taken from by policymakers, and the example that I showed before, again, basically was supported by a specific measure from the Rural Development Program. I don't know if Francesco wants to add something else, because he analyzed the case study more in depth.
Yeah, I fully agree with you, Stefano, and I also want to add something about one of the questions from Stephen, I think, who say that cereal may be a complicated sector to reach the 100% of organic seed, but according to our experience in Italy, which of course is only a small part of the total amount of cereal production, organic cereal production, but according to our experience, we saw that there are room for improvement. For instance, this was in a cooperative of about 500 farmers who they work hard to increase the organic seed delivered to their farm. They pre-finance the seed, allowing the farmer to pay the seed at production delivery, they buy organic collectively, so 5 to 6% of the discount they could get. So, I mean, all logistics, apart from the breeding, all logistics were well connected and well managed from the seed supplier, so until the breeding, from the breeding, sorry, until the retailer who, as we said, collaborates in a, let's say, win-win situation where all part of the supply chain could benefit from this approach. So even the pasta maker then could benefit because in the pasta, which is still a niche anyway, could write that this product come from 100% organic seed and from a variety which was selected specifically for organic. So it's a small example, but I think the way to take is somehow this or similar to this nice experience. And I think, Maaike, you could add something, because this nice experience is also reported in one of our booklet, number 6, I think, and where they can get more insight on this experience.
Yeah, Maaike, if you'd like to add something, maybe you also have another example that comes to mind, please feel free to do so.
Well, I think, Francesco, you referred to the spinach case.
No, well, I referred to the durum wheat case in Italy, but of course in the booklet number 6, there are many other good case practice. Yeah.
Yes. So there's a doodle, a booklet on creating incentives for farmers to use organic seed, and there are 4 examples explained there. One from Italy, one from the Netherlands, one from Romania, and the 4th one I cannot think of now. But what's clear from this is that it really helps if other partners in the chain are involved, and they can take away some of the obstacles for farmers to use organic seed, and they can also increase the use of organic varieties, and this cooperation can really help the different stakeholders to work in the same direction. So please have a look at this booklet as well. You can all find them on the website. So yeah.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Maaike.
Is this enough for now?
I think that was a very interesting insight, and I'm going to show towards the end of this session, I'm going to show some of the available resources, and I think we can also manage to send them around as an email or something after this workshop, so that you can all get informed. Looking at the other post-its, I think there's still quite a lot of insecurity on how really funding for organic breeding in such a large amount can really be achieved, found. So I think this is still a huge challenge for the organic sector, and I was wondering if I could maybe ask Agnes to elaborate, Agnes from Ifoam, to elaborate a little bit more on her suggestion that the financing schemes for organic breeding need to be more diversified, and maybe what Ifoam is doing already or can do, because I feel like this would be very interesting. So Agnes, if you are...
Yes, thank you very much, Eva. So we are taking up several recommendations, of course, from the LIVESEED project. My name is Agnes Brusik, and I'm the coordinator of the LIVESEED project on the administrative side within Ifoam Organics Europe. And what we are planning, or what we are seeing, is that we would like to build platforms or financial schemes that are supporting organic breeding specifically, also at the EU level. So from the recommendations of Francesco and Stefano about the different already existing breeding financing, we see that they are not sustainable, and also it needs to be not only diversified but also scaled up. So we are planning to build or lobby for at an EU level scheme, either separately for organic plant breeding or to somehow share the financing for organic plant breeding within already existing initiatives that support, for instance, biodiversity financing in organic agriculture. And we would like to develop further the idea of the pool funding concept, but also increase that or scale up a little bit. And at the national level, I think it's very important to promote already several existing CAP measures and the greening mechanisms to incorporate organic plant breeding in that. So we would like to lobby for that in the future.
Thanks a lot, Agnes, for these insights. I think we can now move to the second question, how the presented results can help you for organic seed production. So moving away from breeding towards seed. And if you don't mind, Agnes, maybe you also, because this is the, well, it got second most likes, but maybe you also just want to quickly say something about education and training that you're planning to offer, or that you recommend in order to facilitate the phasing out of derogations.
Yes, this is something that came out from the LIVESEED project through several workshops and national stakeholder workshops and gathering of information, that actually farmers are not as aware of the different new types of organic reproductive materials and also not the new items included in the new organic regulations. Especially we have questions very frequently about the phasing out of the derogations. They are quite surprised usually that this is going to be happening. So there is a need to increase information flow on this. We know that the European Commission would like to launch from 2022 a larger social media campaign also on organic in general. And we would like to lobby to include information specifically on these issues from the new organic regulations in this campaign. And apart from that, I think at the national level, we also need to ask the national authorities to actually provide more training for farmers on this topic in the coming period. This came out. We had a workshop a few last week, or yes, on the 26th for Ifoam members, where it was a top priority also according to our members to actually educate farmers on the new articles included in the organic regulation.
Okay, yeah, thanks a lot. I was also wondering, because I think in this workshop here, quite a few people from very different backgrounds, decision makers are present also from many countries. Is it possible to contact Ifoam in order to, I don't know, is there maybe a network or something where people can join? Maybe you can say something about that quickly as well to get the word out. Agnes?
Sorry.
Sorry.
Yes, sorry. Can you please repeat that question? I was reading the chat. Sorry, apologies
Yeah,
for that.
no worries. By the way, I'm at the moment, I don't think I can access the chat because I'm sharing my screen. So if any of you could help out with answering questions or reading them out loud, that would be great. I was wondering if, because like in this workshop, there are, I think, people from diverse backgrounds and many different countries, if we could also say that Ifoam as a coordination platform, if people can also approach you and get further information, or is there maybe a network in place already where if people have become interested now during this workshop, approach you?
Yes, definitely. So to add to this, we are developing at the moment the synthesis of LIVESEED, which is going to be a list of recommendations, and also we are very happy to answer any questions or direct you to the researchers that the recommendation is based, whose work the recommendations are based on. Of course, you can reach out to me anytime. And we are going to have a very conclusive and recommendation-wise a very extended document, but also we are going to have a booklet in July which summarizes this. So please expect a very intensive dissemination with regards to these documents and recommendations that LIVESEED has produced. And for further information on the LIVESEED website, we already had last year in November a very extensive workshop connected to the Organic Innovation Days where we presented the biggest outcomes of LIVESEED, and these are all the recordings and the presentations are available on the LIVESEED website. So I encourage you to visit the website for these documents and videos to see more information. But anytime you can reach out and we will provide you further information.
Great, thanks a lot, Agnes. There's one other post-it that got quite a few likes about shorter supply chains and more direct interactions with customers, and then a resulting greater benefit in agronomy, and also flavor can help encourage development. I feel like this has probably been covered by the insights in the case studies regarding organic breeding, or at least breeding that focuses on organic agricultural breeding goals. So unless someone wants to, maybe also the person who wrote this, if you'd like to say something more, then feel free to do so now. Otherwise, probably move on. This was Stephen Jacobs. Okay, that does not seem to be the case. And then again, I feel there also with organic seed, to achieve really 100% of organic seed use, there's of course still a lot of insecurity. I'm going to zoom in a bit, so it's a bit bigger to read. This post-it, and yeah, I think maybe Maaike, could you add something, maybe also with regard to the roadmap templates that you're currently working on, to just help decision makers to just find out how the situation actually is for important crops, and how to go about this, maybe also about the expert groups that are in place. That would be great.
Yes, thank you, Eva. Yes, regarding the expert group, like I said in my presentation briefly, we really think this is an important platform because their stakeholders can meet, and we noticed when we visited several countries in the LIVESEED project that sometimes the different stakeholders, meaning the breeders and the seed producers and the farmers, had never met before. And once they do, then they learn from each other's problems and demands. So that really helps. And what we also found during the workshops we organized afterwards is that they want to be part of the solution. I don't think we can expect the governments to solve everything with good regulation. So we really need all the stakeholders to participate. And there also an expert group can really be helpful. And regarding the roadmap, well, the roadmap, the word itself means that you make a plan to come to meet a certain goal. So we actually need a roadmap on how to come to 100% organic seed in Europe. And this is something that I think Ifoam, LIVESEED will provide input for with all the recommendations that Agnes was just talking about. At the same time, on the national level, there are huge differences. So also on the national level, you would need a plan on how to come 100% organic seed or PRM use in your country. And our suggestion is that this could be included in the national action plans for organic farming, that there should also be some part on organic seed and vegetable material. And the third level is for the expert group itself. I'm currently working on a template or a decision tree on what to do if you find out that for a certain crop, so starting with the main crops in your country for organic, in a certain crop there's not enough organic material available, that you analyze what is the reason behind this, and then check the different options, so that at least something is happening and progress is made. So for instance, it can be the case that the seed producers producing the varieties the farmers use are not active in organic farming or seed production yet. Well, then you could try to find alternative varieties, or you can try to find out how to motivate those seed companies to enter the market. And often this involves a step-by-step approach. And this is something that we learned also during the workshops, that for some crops, it's not possible to go to 100% organic seed at once, and that you need more to divide the crop in subcrops, for instance, or like they do in France. For carrots now, they say, okay, you have to use 50% organic seed this year and 60% next year, and so on until they reach the 100%. So there's several options there, and we try to develop now a tool that can help the people in the expert groups to find their way in this.
Great. Thank you, Maaike, for these insights. So you see there's a lot going on at the moment, and this being the last year also of LIVESEED means that there's still a lot of output to look forward to. Coming to the third question, yeah, so which next steps do you foresee in your personal role in order to obtain 100% organic seed, or to foster more financing for organic breeding? I think probably much more could be put on onto this, but we can have a look now what's up on it. So yeah, I think Agnes had, I'm not sure if we've actually mentioned this already, but there's this idea about the EU router database. So just to make organic seed offer more visible, to have one database with all the information across Europe about what cultivars are available in organic quality. So I think this is definitely an important aspect. I don't know, Agnes, if you want to add anything to this.
Yes, probably only that we organized workshops, trainings for national authorities and also for seed suppliers in English and German in the end of April and beginning of May on how to use exactly this EU router database as well, and what does it mean, because the national databases, organic seed databases will remain, and the derogation requests will go through the national databases still, but this EU router database provides an opportunity for seed suppliers to access national databases through one entry. And the next phase, this database was developed by FiBL Germany. And the next phase is that we are trying to connect the national databases through either an API software or through manually with extracting the database from the router database and put that into the national ones where the databases are less developed. So this is definitely something we would like to continue doing or help FiBL Germany in this work, because this is quite a lot of work. But also we are going to have in August a second round with the same people who were invited. So we had 83 participants on behalf of the national authorities and also 140 seed suppliers and interested parties in the other training. So we would like to have their opinion. So we would like to understand after they have used the database during the summer, what needs to be improved still. And we are also, at the moment, we are in touch with the national authorities, and we are asking for the responsible persons within each member state about who is going to be responsible for the future work connecting this router database to the national ones. So there is a lot to do in this respect, but we are hopeful that the information presented in the router database will be useful not only for the national authorities and the seed suppliers, but also for farmers looking for seed. So this is one way to increase the availability of seed and the transparency of seed.
Yeah, I think that's a really important aspect. Thank you. And I think this also fits in well with Maaike's comment on encouraging seed producers to cooperate on indicating locations for organic seed multiplication. Oh no, sorry. I thought it was about encouraging seed producers, but it's actually very specific to find more locations for organic seed production. Maaike, would you like to add something to this?
Yes, maybe to a short clarification. Well, the seed companies, they already cooperate also for conventional seed production to find good locations, because they want to prevent outcrossing. And with crops like beetroot, for instance, the seeds can really spread very far. So if you want to produce a variety from this crop, you need to know for certain that there's not a production nearby that can hinder this. And yeah, what I understood from several seed companies, that for organic seed production, it's even harder, because you need a good area where you can grow this crop. And then you also need organic farmers to do it. So I think if we want to upscale this, there's really a need for cooperation here. And I wonder if the European Association for Organic Seed Producers can, or for seed producers, they're also in this workshop, if they can respond to this, if they see a way on how to solve this bottleneck.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it requires some coordination also on a higher level.
Yeah,
so
do you name, yeah, if that person would like to add something, please feel free to speak up. I can't see at the moment who's still in the call, so do you know the name? Maybe you can call out once more, Maaike.
Yeah, I'm just checking the list, but it was someone from Euroseeds earlier. Otherwise, I will contact them about this after this meeting. But directly. I just want to mention this as an action we have to work on.
Yeah, thank you. And then the last aspect here is to reduce the strictness of the DOS criteria for variety approval. I think this is an important point. And as far as I understood, with the organic heterogeneous material, where there is a temporary experiment right now carried out by the EU, this is already on the way. So that, yeah, just like heterogeneous material, for example, can also be registered. I don't know if anyone, Stefano, maybe, do you know a bit more about this?
No, just I can, yeah, just reinforce what you just said, that for organic heterogeneous material, this strictness will not apply.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Yeah, so there's definitely, I think, still some way to make, but there is some progress already. Okay, thanks. Coming to our last question on the key obstacles and how research can further facilitate to overcome these obstacles. Here I see there's a need to know where shortages are for each variety as well. So at variety level, so that we can concentrate on breeding. Jason, would you like to add something to this? Otherwise, I think it's an important point. And I feel like, yeah, there's collaboration needed also in terms of the roadmaps that Maaike has mentioned to, yeah, just really get into dialogue, for example, in such expert groups to, yeah, just discuss among policymakers and seed producers and breeders as well to just get a clear picture. Otherwise, we need yeah, Francesco?
Yeah, I was reading one of this sentence about the need of information on derogation, and well, in general, good information also in farm safe seed. I mean, yeah, what we are now doing at this phase of the project, also writing some recommendation on how to collect and analyze good data, because we saw that if we have good data, then we make good forecast, and this is very important. Up to now in Europe, in the EU, then we don't have, for instance, a good quality of the derogation reports, because they are not harmonized. So we need a more standardized data collection and publication. And this will be also important because it will give also some nice insight on what varieties are missing and in which part of the EU area, in which member states they are missing. So it will help really a lot to compose this puzzle, which we try to do in this project, but then we need urgently to improve this data collection process. So we will send to the EU Commission a really huge list of recommendations on how to collect good quality data.
Thanks, Francesco. Would anyone else like to add something now? Yeah. Because yes. Hello, Jason.
Jason. Yeah, I think that information is there. It's very hard for NGOs and the likes, people who are working with seeds, to actually get that information. So there needs to be a push to get it from each national government so that it's accessible, because it's collected by the organic certification bodies, and then it just disappears. And I don't know how. There needs to be some kind of impetus put on the national departments of agriculture or something to collect that information so that we can access that easily, to find out what's needed. That's the way I see it anyway, because otherwise it stalls the project straight away not to have that information in front of you. You don't really know what you're talking about. Like, you know, it's partly why I asked Francesco earlier, what are the shortfalls in organic vegetable varieties? You know, if we don't know that, we don't know where to start from.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. I mean, organic certification, organic control body has a lot of information which could be shared and collected at national level. So the first thing is that EU Commission should, first of all, make some guideline on how to collect data properly, because then each national state are, for instance, now collecting data on derogation, but we saw that someone is collecting data on a way, some other on another way. So it's important that originally these data are collected in a unique way so they can be merged together. But I fully agree with you. With the help of control body, and also with the help of certification, seed certification body, we could, for instance, know how many hectares of seed, organic seed, we are now cultivating, and this is, we know, is only possible in 2 or 3 member states in Europe, which are Germany and Austria. In other countries, not possible to know up to now the hectares cultivated, for instance, to do organic durum wheat, and this is I mean, this is a bottleneck for the data collection process. So I fully agree with you.
Thanks a lot for these questions. So we are definitely going to take all the post-its, all the ideas into account that just came up. And I have some trouble sharing my screen.
Maybe in the meantime, I can add one positive note, Eva, to what was just discussed. And this is that in the new regulation, if you look at the data that will be collected, it will be increased. So, and some of this data will also be published on the website of the European Commission. You can find it in the new regulation. So for instance, the list, the non-derogation list that some countries have already, and it will become obligatory to have such a list in the regulation. And those lists will be published on the website of the European Commission. And also on the general derogation, so the crops for which no organic seed is available yet, this information will also be published by the Commission themselves. So I think that is some good news.
Yeah,
because Francesco, it took a lot of work already to get all the derogation reports. If I
Yes, indeed.
right,
Yeah. Very good news. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, with this positive note, I'd actually like to come to a close with this workshop. Thanks a lot for participating. I hope it was interesting for you. In case you have any further questions, you can just contact us again. I think you have at least the contact data of Agnes from Ifoam, or otherwise we can be found on the LIVESEED website, where also most of the resources can be found, like all the publications, reports can be downloaded from there. And yeah, there's also some social media activity of LIVESEED if you want to follow us anywhere. This is an overview of most of the resources from which our presentations today originated from. Some technical reports, some scientific publications. There are also a few policy briefs, for example, based on the modeling results that we presented today, that is coming out soon. And as Maaike already mentioned, the roadmap template, where national authorities can get help in order to identify which road to take with specific crops to obtain 100% organic seed. And also this is also something that Maaike and her team mostly worked on. There's a nice movie on YouTube about strategies for the production of organic vegetable seeds. So yeah, when we share this presentation, you can also get this link and have a look at this video, and yeah, hopefully be encouraged that we can actually obtain 100% organic seed in the near future. This is an overview of our partners in LIVESEED. And there's also a short feedback survey that you could maybe very quickly fill in right away, or Agnes is going to send it around after this event as well, but I think she's going to post it into the chat now to give us some insights on how you found our work. Yeah, and then thanks a lot again for your participation, and hope to see you around for another event. And yeah, take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eva.
Thanks.